Hi, friends. This is it. Best of 2022. It was tough to create this list because I went over all my videos I filmed over the course of the year, covered all the products, had to write everything down because when you look back at what you bought and used, it hits you like a brick, and now having to decide what are my faves, best of all the items that quite frankly I like all of. So when I mention a product or present it as the best of, that is no way invalidating the other products that I also love. It's just a matter of, I don't know, feeling in the moment, extra it factor that I might not be able to put into words, and again, doesn't weaken the other products. I still love those products as well. One of those things where I just want to make a decision. I didn't want to create different categories like I did last year. I just wanted to push it all forward. So that means this is going to be a long video. Timestamps, fam. So long, I'm filming one half today because I have to go train and teach later. Don't have the time to film the whole thing, so I might be wearing a different outfit tomorrow. Just letting you know. Why don't we go into complexion? And this was hard because I loved all the foundations I tried this year. To list out the contenders: Hourglass Soft Ambient, the NARS Light Reflecting, the Haus Labs Skin Tech, the Danessa Myricks Skin Blurring Balm, the Patrick Ta Cream Foundation and Finishing Powder. Despite all those foundations and how I presented all of them in a favorite video throughout the year, trying them at length, experiencing them with different products, so on and so forth, I had already predicted what will be my favorite foundation, and I teeter-tottered between another because the Haus Lab Skin Tech I absolutely love. That was the foundation that if I had to give an award, it will be the one that shocked me the most. The Hourglass one gives me a beautiful velvet finish. Like I said, Haus Labs has that perfected skin natural finish that it says in its description, nails it. Despite all that, okay, I still had to give it to the NARS. When I first applied this foundation, it was a wrap in terms of the color science, the blend, the finish, how it blurred my skin without overwhelming it, lessened the look of imperfections, virtually undetectable in terms of makeup. You couldn't tell if I had foundation on, and it was one that again presented itself as a skincare and makeup hybrid. Sometimes those formulas are weak on the coverage, on the staying power. No. The NARS foundation, despite the skin loving properties, it not being a traditional foundation like the Hourglass Ambient, it still killed. I have Valencia and Syracuse on. Syracuse is a little too golden for me right now. We are in December, you know, the color is less, okay? When I combine Valencia and Syracuse together, I get best of both worlds in terms of shade and undertone, and yeah, is perfect for me. With all the benefits I mentioned, it's just one of those things where no matter the foundations that I love during the year that I've used, again, the Danessa, Haus Labs, Hourglass, the Patrick Ta, NARS is impeccable. I haven't tried all their foundations, but I can say with confidence that this has to be their best one out of all the foundations in the brand. Wide skin tone range, fluid texture, skin-like natural finish. You just can't get better than this, and that's why it was hard for me to buy the Hourglass right away when it released, because I had mentioned this in a favorites video, or I forgot what type of video, that where can we go from here? It's like we're already beyond, right? We're cosmic level, I feel, with the NARS foundation. You know, anything else after that is either going to be just below that or still cosmic level. But what can we do beyond that? I don't know. I haven't experienced it yet, and I definitely most with confidence award the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation as best foundation for me for 2022. That leads us into concealer, and contenders for concealer are much less than the foundations. The Say Hydrating Concealer and the LYS Triple Fix Serum Concealer. Without a doubt, the LYS takes the cake. I like the Say. I had tried it in the summertime and I appreciated its more warm undertone, especially because I was a little more tan at that time. And the warmer undertone under my eyes canceled out any darkness in a way that I felt didn't need to go in with a color corrector, and it is more hydrating, so I felt more appropriate to wear during that season where everything is more dewy, balmy, and glistening on the skin. The LYS, however, and I first bought this, let me see here, I made note of it. I first bought it in April, so you know, half the year through. I haven't stopped using this since. Fluid texture, easy to blend. I have both shades MG5, which is a little more medium golden, TN3, which is more tan neutral. Tan neutral, but a little more warmer than the TN3 shade in the foundation. Again, it just works well with other products. It melts under my eyes. It has decent coverage. I would grade this medium coverage, which is enough for me. I understand if you need a little more. In that case, I would recommend Pat McGrath's Under Eye Concealer, which I still consider a favorite. I actually applied Pat McGrath here and LYS on this side just to see them work together, and yes, the Pat McGrath Labs concealer has a lot more coverage, more creamy, don't have to use as much. That formula packs a punch. Whereas the LYS, you could apply a little bit more because it's not as creamy. There's a little more fluidity in the texture, which I feel leads to easy blending, whether with sponge, fingers, or a brush. And I haven't stopped using this concealer since, despite the number of concealers that released this year. I didn't feel a need to grab them because I was beyond happy with the LYS. Again, in terms of the texture and the color, the undertone, that I was set, and I happily reached for it every time I did my makeup, whether I reached for MG5 alone for more brightness, or I just stuck to TN3, which was more my skin tone, so not as brightening, but still, again, erased or lessened the look of my under eye discoloration, darkness, what have you. It was just right for me. And who knows, when I finish this concealer, I might just rebuy it. I could look at the other options again that released this year. Who knows what will come out next year also, because the products are just going to keep churning out. And maybe I'll try something new, but I don't know. I like to stick with what works. And the LYS, top for 2022. Powder. I did use the Rare Beauty loose powder. I forgot the official name. It was like a positive affirmation name, I'm sure. It had nice texture and all that. I didn't find myself using loose powder a lot this year, I have to say. I did use Pat's under eye blurring powder religiously, whether it was the under eye blurring powder or her loose powder. What else did I use? I'm trying to think. I had used Linda Hallberg's blotting powder as well. I really liked that during the summertime. Even though it was a blotting powder, it still didn't dry out my skin, especially if I used it under my eyes. My under eyes didn't look dry and flaky. It just took away that extra shine the concealer left behind. I also used it around my face if I needed a little more of a matte finish. So those were the contenders for best of, and I would consider those to be fine products that I use in 2022. And the under eye blurring powder from Pat didn't release this year. I believe it released last year. So can't really say that was best of 2022, but I probably could say it was my most used. Most definitely. And brows. You know what I'm gonna say. I was going back and forth between the Goof Proof and Charlotte Tilbury's Brow Cheat. When I used Charlotte's Brow Cheat, I was quite surprised by its performance, the color of the pencil. I appreciated the construction in regards to just rebuying the refill portion and not having to buy the entire component, which I think saves on waste. Something I wish Benefit will implement. Maybe they will down the line. But what led led me to still stick with the Goof Proof was the consistency for the Charlotte Tilbury Brow Cheat was a little too waxy for me. It didn't have enough stick on the skin like I feel the Goof Proof does. And the Goof Proof for me, 3.5 neutral brown, is a dead on perfect color match for my brows. It's not too red, not too light, not too dark brown. It matches my hair well, but it doesn't look too dark on my complexion, where that's a way you can go. If you want ultra defined brows, people do that on purpose, using a darker brow shade to create that illusion. But I like my brows to be more neutral and soft in presentation, and also within the Benefit Brow product category. Also like the Precision Brow Pencil, but the Goof Proof for me just gets the brows on fast because of the wedge design, which a lot of brands have. But for me, I think I just became accustomed to this shape, and my application technique molded around the shape of the pencil, and I just again become used to this design, and I slap on these brows so fast now. And with the spoolie at the end, you know, I just use the pencil. Sometimes I use the 24-hour brow setter. That is a killer product as well. Or the Gimme Brow if I don't want to use pencil and just need a little more fluff and volume and a little bit of color as well, then I'll apply the Gimme Brow. And again, they're all from Benefit. There's no surprise there in the brow category that I still stuck to Benefit throughout 2022. And like I had said with the concealer, with the LYS one, I might rebuy that one, and I just continue rebuying Benefit brow products. It's when it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's pretty much how I feel about my brow products. Moving into cheek products, we got bronzer, blush, and highlighter. I would say there are different categories for this because you could go the single product route or you could go the palette product route. And why don't I just end this fast and present what I think is my most favorite cheek palette of 2022. Was there any surprise? I did buy the elephant one. Do I have it? Yes. I did end up getting palette 2, the one with the copper shade. Outrageously beautiful. Okay, I held off because I wasn't sure how it would work out, how it would look. Very warm on the skin, but the warmth works, especially in the dead of winter. You know, some copper is appreciated. What I love about palette 1, and this was customized. Again, if you bought these as is, the copper tones come in the tiger palette design. I decided to put the medium tones here in the tiger palette because I appreciate just the medium tone pinks, the warmer bronzer, and the fact that we have 2 setting powders in here that I can use not only for under eye setting, but all over face finishing. And that is the advantage over the copper offering for me. I could only use this for blush needs, highlighter, blush, and bronzer. With the other palette, I can use this as a more comprehensive experience. I don't have to bring along a loose or pressed powder. I could use these here, have my highlight, 2 different blushes, and a bronzer. I actually applied these with my Sonji Mount Fuji brush on a YouTube short if you want to see that application in action. And I just adore how it looks. I even use that same brush to apply the highlight from the palette. And Hourglass powders, despite their challenges in getting deeper skin tone shades right when it comes to their powder products, they did a little better this year, at least offering 3 different curations of their lighting ambient palette and not just presenting one for all to use. The powder formula itself is baked in Italy, and that softness I think makes it incredibly blurring on the skin, lightweight. It doesn't look dry on the skin. It has more of like this luminous effect without appearing dewy or oily, right? Especially if you had trouble applying powder or if you have dry skin and you tend to use cream products for that reason. Powder products look dry on your skin, make your complexion appear dull. Hourglass powders have, again, a radiance to them without appearing sparkly or shimmery that allow that lit from within glow, again, to happen without consequence, without looking too dewy, without looking too shiny on the skin. And that's a look, you know, if you want to look all shiny, glittery, metallic, go that way. Who am I? But it's great to apply a powder that not only will provide that flush, that sculpt, that highlight, but also has blurring effects as well on the skin. And on top of the NARS, forget it. Match made in heaven, especially with the soft light powder I applied on both the Pat McGrath concealer and the LYS one. Undetectable. Okay, my under eyes still look radiant, okay, without looking dry and sad. Outrageously good. And I reached for this so many times, especially when packing for on-the-go situations. I didn't want to put much thought about which blush, highlighter, or bronzer I want to pack. Don't even worry about it. Just put this palette in the bag and you're all set to go. That just streamlined it for me in terms of not having to choose different products. And at my destination, I can't go wrong with this. Like, no matter where I attend, if it's a low-key situation, red carpet, I've never been to a red carpet event, but if I ever did, this would deliver just fine. So I had to give the Lighting Ambient, or the official name, the Lighting Edit Unlocked Lustrous holiday palette, especially this year where you have the different designs that you can choose from. There is a butterfly design, but I opted for both the tiger and elephant ones by Katie Scott because I thought these were the most impactful and the most special looking. The tiger pattern by far design is my most favorite. Just this concert of turquoise blue and the tiger, it's perfect. I have to briefly mention Hindash's Monochromance palette. That is in its own category because it houses all powders that you can use for complexion needs, cheek and eye needs. I like that palette as well. I'm giving it to the Hourglass because those powders are matte and they don't look dry on the skin. They're quite nice. I just appreciate a little bit more luminosity from the Hourglass. There's a little bit of sheen there, which I think lends to that blurred out effect, lit from within situation we got going on, I hope anyway. The Hindash palette, I think fantastic also for streamlining, packing up makeup, just having everything in one spot. The fact that you can set your face, apply eye makeup and cheek makeup all for one palette, I think is fantastic. And the denim violet shades included in Monochromance I thought were lovely because the undertones made it so if you combined it with, you know what, let me just show you. I thought I had it, but I don't know where it is. Anyway, there are more neutral shades in that palette that you can mix and match with the violet and denim ones, which I think easy to present more of a neutral offering if you wanted to dip into color but were intimidated to do so. That is the advantage in using Monochromance. But I didn't reach for that palette as much, again, because the Hourglass just stole my heart and I gravitated towards that palette because of the reasons I listed. What are we gonna do now about the individual blush, highlighter, and bronzer choices? This one was hard. There were a lot of great cheek products this year. My goodness, I bought so many. A few to name. Let's start with highlighter, shall we? The Hourglass highlighter that I showed in the palette, the Haus Labs Bio Radiant Gel. This is in Fire Opal. I also have this in Peach Quartz. The Mob Beauty highlighter, which is a single. This is a curated palette I put together with the Beautylish card event. You have the highlighter here in Rose Gold, but you also have the cream bronzer, cream blush, and powder blush. You have Hindash's Boy Tears, a product that surprised me. I quite like this. I wanted to mention it anyway. And I know Rare Beauty just released their highlighters. Everyone's going crazy over them. I didn't buy it. I feel I'll be okay until next year. I keep seeing content about it and it looks beautiful. There's no denying that. I think, however, I'm still going to give it to the Haus Labs. I was pleasantly surprised with this highlighter. The fact that it has a lot going on. It is a gel to powder texture, but what I adore is the smoothness and twinkle factor despite having so much of that reflectivity in the formula. What I like to do with Fire Opal is just take it over my cheeks to give it extra shine. And Peach Quartz also is outrageously beautiful. Peach Quartz will be more appropriate to be placed on my high cheekbone area. And although I have the Hourglass, this is what I like about Peach Quartz. It's going to give a little extra twinkle there to add dimension if you wanted. And it's so lightweight that all you need to do is tap a few times, and the formula adheres well to the skin in a way that it doesn't sit on top. It distributes well and evenly. It plays well with others. Despite me placing that on the cheeks, it doesn't look textured. And yes, I understand perhaps if I shaved my face and did all that, it might look smoother. But even with my face hair, I'm very pleased with how it lays down, how it provides a little bit of that sparkle without overwhelming the skin. And I understand this might not be for everyone, which is why I wanted to show the Ma Beauty highlighter in that it's a lot softer and more subdued. It's going to give more of like a traditional shine, but it looks more soft focus and finish. And that's what I was trying to say about the Hourglass, soft focus. I kept on saying blurring, but the soft focus life is what you will get from the Ma Beauty, from the Hourglass. But sometimes I like a little bit of twinkle, you know what I mean? And I'm happy to report that I just kept these shades, meaning I stuck with these, did not buy more. I was going to. It's tempting. The Bio Radiant Gel line from Haus Labs is outrageously good in terms of the amount of different highlighters they have for different skin tones, not just with gold, silver, champagne, peach, but shades like Fire Opal, a little bit more far extreme, like pinky, orangey pink, and coral. So that was really nice to see on the first release, and I'm happy again that I stuck with these shades, pleased with the formula, and have been using it ever since. We get to bronzer, why not? Let's talk about some of the contenders, shall we? Still with the Haus Labs, we have the Powder Sculpt Velvet Bronzer. I have this in shade 7. The LYS Cream Bronzer. The Ma Beauty Cream Bronzer that I showed previously. The bronzer in the Hourglass palette. There was another. Although this is not considered a bronzer, I did buy Benefits Java from their sale because this shade, even though it's not a bronzer, I've been gravitating toward blushes that kind of give bronzing moments like Java does, Terra, Starla, which is why the blush award is going to be very hard, but we'll get there in a minute. The LYS Cream Bronzer, I have this in Harmony, No Limits. It's called the No Limits Cream Bronzer. It's incredibly smooth, without a doubt. I mean, easy peasy blending. The NARS bronzer in Laguna 3, I have a little drier. That gives me really nice sculpt. The Say Cream Bronzer, which I like more for summer, and also have to apply it over powder just so it can have a little more adherence, but it does do well under powder products as well. And then of course, the Haus Labs again. This texture is so smooth, but the color itself, it has warmth, but it leans a little more neutral, and it offers just the right amount of sun-kissed glow and sculpt at the same time. It's a nice balance of those two. And the Mauve Cream Bronzer, oh, I keep going back and forth. I love this color as well. You see it's drier than the LYS. I mean, the LYS bronzer knocks everyone out of the park in terms of texture. I mean, but I gotta say, however, I gotta give it to the Haus Labs. I know. It's not because the LYS is trash. The LYS No Limits Cream Bronzer Stick is beautiful. I found over the course of the year, even with the large introduction of cream products for my cheeks, several that I will mention when we get to blush, I just keep going back to powder. I don't know. I just think it's easier to apply. I just whip it on. I love the more soft focus or soft matte look it gives my skin. And yes, I think there is a place for cream products, perhaps maybe in the wintertime. I wore them more in the summertime, which was strange. Maybe because I wanted more of that dew-like finish, more satin-like finish from these products. The Powder Sculpt Velvet Bronzer I thought was just immaculate in terms of how smooth loved it looked on the skin. The color itself is really what drew me in. And the No Limits, for me, Harmony was a cool shade, but I felt like I needed to go tan, but I felt like tan would have been a little too warm. So maybe the color match for me is what's keeping me from awarding this best of 2022. And the Power Sculpt Velvet Bronzer just hit it out of the park for me. I feel the same way about the Ma Beauty Cream Bronzer. It's the perfect neutral for me, where I can layer this under other bronzing products, and it's a little drier, which I feel kind of helps it stay right where I need it in the hollows of my cheeks. But I can't help it, man. This is a good bronzer. I was pleasantly surprised with the Skin Tech. Although I awarded NARS Best Of for foundation, Skin Tech is not far behind. I use that foundation thoroughly as well. I adore its blend, its laydown, how it looks on my skin under different cheek products. Remarkable. That leads us to blush. I've already mentioned the Benefit blushes that I've said over and over again how I cannot stand the box packaging, but the blush shades themselves, outrageously good. Between Starla, Java, and Terra, these are the star shades for me from the Benefit brand. But because the box package, I can't say it's the best. The Gucci blush in 06 Warm Berry, another one and done moment where I can just place this on the hollows and whip it around the apples of my cheeks. The Vital Surgeons Skin Spark Blush Bombs in the shade Inferno. Terracotta Goodness Ultimate. Okay, this has like a moussey like texture that's very pigmented. Yeah, you could build this up accordingly, but it doesn't look shiny on the skin. It does have a little bit of like that sheen, but it has more of a soft matte feel that you can blend with a brush or fingers, layer it under a powder if you want a little more longevity, you know what I mean? I also have Singe, which were gifted to me by the brand, and I bought Sublimate in their blush extension. They released 4 shades that I just had to get. It was like Exothermic, which was like a toasted type of a taupey moment, like a tawny. Singe here is more pink. I use Singe a lot over the summertime, because my goodness, just psh, psh, and you're done, ready to go. Those are contenders. Suqqu, I don't have it with me. I should get it though, hold on. The Melting Powder Blush, a new formula for Suqqu. This is in Tomoshibi. Again, this reddish brown shade. Look how smooth that is. So it feels moussey in the pen, but it applies like a powder, more emollient than their pure color blush, which I have 2 favorites. This is in 132. I believe this was, I forgot, like their summer, spring release. There were so many releases for Suqqu. This is like the flushed coral red shade, as well as 137 from, I think it was their holiday release. This is again in the pure color formula, reddish brown. Come on, it reminds me of Starla. And the pure color blush formula from Suqqu. Talk about silky. Gorgeous in the application, just flushed out, easy to get on the cheeks. And I have to announce the winner, don't I? I'm gonna have to give it to the Suqqu. I have to. Tomoshibi in the Melting Powder formula is just, okay, this color, I love the terracotta shades. Paradise Venus, Starla, Terra, even the Gucci Warm Berry it's categorized as a berry, but it's warm, still puts it in the terracotta category for me. All these shades, they're right up my alley, and to have something like Tomoshibi where I can apply it not only on the high points of my face but wrap it down around the apples of my cheeks, and it have just like that creamy blend on the application and have that sheen left behind. Melting Powder Blush, I think it is appropriately named. That's exactly what it does. When the brush comes in contact with your skin, it just melts right into there. It diffuses, it's undetectable. And the way it whips and just looks soft and luxurious on the skin, and the color itself, This was hard. This was hard because I basically showed you all the blushes that I use in heavy rotation. Shades and formulas that I reach for all the time. But again, I just had to choose one. And it has to be the melting powder formula. In terms of it being a new formula from a brand and then me trying it for the first time in 2022, woo! I'll just keep it at that. But like I said at the beginning of this video, because I presented the Suqqu as best of, doesn't mean that the ones that I also showed are not great. In fact, they are fantastic. Do not forget them. Hi, we are here for part 2. As I said before at the beginning, because of time constraints, I would have to film this favorites video, or best of video rather, in 2 parts. We got a different outfit on. We got a few different makeup items on too. I slapped on the Ma Beauty Cream Bronzer, Benefit Starla on top. Also the Rose Gold Highlighter here. Meet Me in Berlin lipstick from Alicia Eldridge, the ESUM Cosmetics Nude and Chocolate Lip Liner, the same eyeshadow palette, which I will share, since now I think we can go into eyeshadow palettes now. I have to open my notebook, excuse me, because there were a lot of favorite eyeshadow palettes for me in 2022. It was hard to narrow it down, and you might find the #1 choice a surprise. But let me first go over a few of the favorites throughout the year, shall we? These are not in any particular order, but the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes eyeshadow palette, I was pleasantly surprised with the softer textures, the sparkly shades here, the matte colors, the undertones leaning tan, soft mauve are right up my alley. And the sparkler shades, unlike many textures I've encountered with that similar finish, sometimes gets hard pan, but these stay very soft and are easy to pick up with finger or brush and can be tapped on any eyeshadow to create that high reflect, or rather sparkling on the water effect. We have the Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes, both in Nouveau and Rose Metals. Pleasantly surprised and pleased with the formula change and change in format. Although we do have less shades here in previously released ABH eyeshadow palette, I do prefer the bigger squares, just a more edited offering. I think it perhaps forces the person, I guess Norvina, whoever is creating these palettes, to narrow down to the shades that are going to work well together and not just have these extra whatever shades just to make it more, right? I think sometimes less is more, and when it comes to this format, the better matte formula that is softer, easier to blend. Metallics are smooth, some have more of a burnished finish, a more high shine finish, and the overall curation being that Nouveau is inspired by the Art Nouveau period, very whimsical in field, and I enjoyed this immensely. Rose Metals, however, I think from the two will have to be my favorite. Definitely inspired by 90s grunge, their take on that era. The metallics are heavy in this palette, but you also have lovely mattes in here as well that ground the metallic shades. And what I like about the metallic formula specifically is their smoothness. You can apply them by themselves, buff the edges, and just have that one and done look. And the shades themselves are hardy enough for you to accomplish those looks with, but you still have the mattes on standby to add a little more dimension if you like. Suqqu came out with some killer quads this year, but one of my particular favorites, I believe this was, the pre-summer collection, if I'm not mistaken, 115 Anka, I believe. This is a basic palette, it's bronzy in nature, but the curation of shades, the fact that you have this warm brown matte with the pinkier copper and the more penny tone copper with the sparkler shade that you can apply on any of those metallics, just the simplistic approach to this color story I adored, and I found myself using this a lot when it first released and combining it with Pat McGrath's Permagel liner in Black Coffee, which is a staple holy grail makeup item for me at this point. No matter what eyeshadow palette I'm using, Black Coffee needs to be on standby. If I need more definition on the lash line or a little more smoke on the outer corner, whatever the case might be, it is there. okay? But I had to bring out Enka because I particularly love this palette, especially during the season it released in. Hot, sizzly summer heat, those toasted eyes, that very much the reason why I love Melt's 27 palette, which wasn't as popular as Gemini. Corals and the terracotta shades, just like that hot summer girl look each and every time you dip into that palette. Remarkable. I also wanted to bring up Gemini 2 that released in 2022. Although I don't have it here in front of me, I did like the rose tones and the olive green tones that were included in that palette. I didn't find myself reaching for it often, maybe because I really love Natasha Denona's retro. Those had like more burgundy maroon shades, and people often compare the two. And listen, the Gemini 2 palette is lovely. I think that was one of the better Melt cosmetic palettes, since there are inconsistencies with their eyeshadow palette offerings. But Gemini 2 I thought did very well. Not my top favorite from the year, but I like it. 27 though is my favorite. I was putting, it was either Rust or 27. I think I'm gonna have to go with 27. It's my favorite Melt palette. And we had the pleasure of welcoming Izamea's new makeup brand, where she released her industrial eyeshadow palette, or specifically industrial color pigments eyeshadow palette. Speak about innovative packaging and a very much conceptualized design here with, you know, BDSM inspired latex. You have the form on the actual palette, and here are the shades, a mixture of moussey like textures, topper textures, more heavy metal metallic. This was extraordinary. I had a lot of fun with this palette. You just have a lot of moments here, high sparkle and shine. This one, I forgot what it's called, but look at that. It's just remarkable. I had a blast using this palette. And in that collection, she also had the lip black, which was like a black cherry lip gloss. I think great for one and done lip smoky looks. I have to use the industrial palette more often because, again, there's so many moments in there, and simple ones at that, where you could just rely on a shade like this as your one and done moment. Slap it all over the lid, buff the edges. That could be done so softly and get that New Year's eye, or even apply it on Pat McGrath's Chromolux Artistry Pigment in Falcon Noir. You don't need Falcon Noir for this shade to do battle by itself, but whoa, what a duo. Just thinking about it. Woo. And Lisa Eldridge released her eyeshadow palettes this year. I have this in Vega and Myth, and I thoroughly enjoy the Velvet formula, which is not her seamless matte, but not her metallic either. It's more of a cream to powder texture, but more fluid, very easy to blend. I like that it's 6 shades, very much curated and edited, and I adore Vega and Myth. Vega particularly because of the smokier shades in here, like Turbulence. Oh my gosh. One and done contoured look shade. So many swatches. With the metallics here, high shine and toppers. She has like 2 formulas. I think it's Lustrous and another one where it gives you really nice twinkle effect without overwhelming the lid. Not like an actual shade from Pat McGrath's palette, which, speaking of, what a segue. Pat McGrath released Mothership 10 in the summer, I believe it was July. Moonlit Seduction, I think one of her best for sure. Midnight Sun is my favorite. Well, my first favorite is Subversive. I know I gotta do a ranking video. Subversive was my first love out of the 3 that released back in 2017, or is it 2015? My gosh, I forgot. And then when Midnight Sun came along, my heart was stolen. After that, with Divine Rose 1 and 2, and then we got Utopian Dream, people were getting a little antsy with the rose tones and the repeat shades that were now very much prevalent in Pat McGrath's eyeshadow collection. But when Moonlit Seduction came out, I think when people saw it online, they were like, oh, here we go again. But when you used it, however, let me get her. When you had this in person and finally used it, that's where I feel its magic was revealed. The fact that it had Divine Rose 1 moments and some subliminal moments, right? Smokiness, not so warm, pink rosy like Divine Rose 2 and Utopian Dream. It was more centered, especially with the plum shade and rosewood shade. Extreme Nocturnal, I forgot what this was called. The duochrome shade, the platinum shade. My goodness, I think it was such a beautiful balance between cool, rosy, plummy, warm. You can mix and match. People were dubbing this like a wedding palette or a wedding day palette in terms of the color story. I really love Moonlit Seduction. I don't know where I would place it amongst my favorites. I still gotta figure it out, but I feel one of the better received palettes from Pat McGrath, given the fact that we have so many Divine Rose moments. This, although looked like a Divine Rose moment online, in person it wasn't. It was different. It was more cool tone, but had its own impact with VR Sextasy and the astral shades with the lilac shade and the gold. So Moonlit Seduction, of course. But despite the fact that I got my initials on the palette, so naturally you would think this will be my best of 2022, and I'm gonna say it's not. I'm gonna be a little more objective. Can you believe it? This was one of my most favorite moments of 2022, having the opportunity to work with the brand in filming with Moonlit Seduction, having my initials on this palette 100%. But what I think was my favorite palette of 2022, just from seeing it for the first time, it was a wrap. I was like, it's mine. I need to have this. From the conception, the name of the palette, the textures in the palette, I have this on my eyes for this portion. And for the first half of this video, it is Byredo's Flora Kalahari eyeshadow palette. I know, you're like, are you kidding me? Listen, fam, this is one of the most beautiful palettes I owned and will ever own. When I saw it first online, I was like, oh my gosh. It is so beautiful, more so in person. When I received this in the mail and opened it, it was like the beam of light radiating from it into my face, blinding my eyes. And I believe this was one of the last projects of Isabella when she was collaborating with Byredo at the time. What a way to go out. This is, okay, we got a lot of shades in here, as you saw. The formula, impeccable. While I understand on first glance, you might see a lot of similar shades within the palette, and I have a video going over all the swatches, there are nuanced differences, and when you start to play with all the colors, layer them, pair them together, those nuances are better understood and revealed to the user. The texture of the mattes, feather light and soft, and you're like, oh my gosh, Alicia, where's the pigment? No. You don't understand. When you apply these mattes, they just float on your skin and blend like a dream. And it's not because they're powdery. It's like they're powdered silk. And they remind me of the Suqqu formula immensely. But these are it's just crazy soft. And I think the standout critique is, where's the super dark matte? We don't have a super dark matte. We have a matte with sparklers in here that you can use for depth. Now, this is more of an eggplant. See, you have the sparklers in there. Might not be great for someone who rather just have a flat matte for intensity purposes. That's when I would have my black coffee on standby, or even, hold on, the Byredo liner that I didn't show in any of my videos, but I really like this product. It doesn't have the same staying power as black coffee, 100%, but I like the chunky pencil design and the tone of brown. It's a little more brown than black coffee. Black coffee got a little more black in there, which might be more favorable to some. But I just like this chunky, it's the Kajal pencil from Byredo, where you can cover more surface area at once, and it's a little more emollient. So because of that, it's not going to have the same staying power as black coffee. But I like that you can blend this out and use it as a setup moment for your shadows if you wanted, right? Especially if you wanted to deepen up the outer lid area or line your waterline up and down. You have that opportunity, and this is what I like to use with Flora Kalahari. And the metallics they're so soft and shiny, and I love how they blend on the skin. They have beautiful adherence. Not only can you wear these solo, but you can just blend the edges, and the end result is high shine, soft focus, just right. And you have shades that have a little more shine to them if you wanted to use them as topper moments. You also have some duochromes in here, right? A little bit of everything. And also the fact that you have like midnight and olive shades. I think that's fantastic, right? If you didn't want to go super warm, right? If you rather go this route or this route, you can mix them up however you want. I adore this palette, I really do, and I should have used it more often, but of course with dealing new releases throughout the year, trying palettes out for videos, and I like to use the palette more than once, so anytime one new palette comes along, I spend time on it, and by the time I'm done, there's a new palette, which is why I had said before, 2023, I'm going to dive into my collection and use the favorites. Yeah, why not? And Flora Kalahari, I have to get back and use this again, or maybe just use it for an entire week or about an entire month. That would be a fun challenge. So this was the best for me from the year. I know it came to a surprise, especially with receiving Moonlit Seduction, again, having my name monogrammed on there, but man, I think Flora Kalahari took the top spot because it was unexpected, right? Just everything from when I saw it the first time to when I received it to using it, even from then, yesterday, and today, it's always a pleasant experience, and I am so happy it's in my hands. I think the next category I'll touch on will be lips. I have to give a shout out to ESUM for sending me their new lip liner duos we have here in blush, but I love the rose tone from blushed, right? And the reason is I can use these with my Lisa Eldridge lip colors, Velvet Beauty, Velvet Blushed, and I rather use the pinkier plum side with Velvet Fawn, because Velvet Fawn's pencil is like a little too pink, and I wanted something a little more neutral around the lip for Velvet Fawn. Now, I don't think these came out in 2022, but I bought them in 2022. Linda Hallberg, LH Cosmetics, their lip liners. Sepia is like your grungy type of liner, and I also have the Majestic in the same shade. Sepia, this is what I had on yesterday. This is like your grungy type of shade, and the Majestic formula is very creamy. It actually reminds me of Pat McGrath's older satin formula, and that might not be great for some because a very creamy formula can accentuate lip texture. I don't have a lip texture issue, but if you use the Majestic, yes, it's tighter than the Lucence from Lisa, and also I think tighter than her satin formula as well. The Velvet formula from Lisa is more blurring in nature. Perhaps that's why people favor it over like a creamier formula, but the Sepia combination from LH Cosmetics is outstanding, and I have to wear it more often. I neglected to do so throughout the year, but I wanted to include it in this favorites, or rather best of video, because it's a great combination, and man, it really gives that overall like vibe of 90s girl, and the neutral like almost grayish brown tone of Sepia in both the lip liner and the lipstick is outstanding. The Flawless lip glosses from Suqqu, I think this was included in their pre-summer release, if not pre-summer, the summer release. What a great lip gloss formula. This is fantastic because it doesn't have a heavy fragrance, and although you can feel a little bit of the sparkle texture, it's not drying on the lips or super gritty, right? This is in the shade, well, I could give you the number at least, 111. I love the heck out of 111 because it reminds me of, what is it? Yes, Bronze Venus from Pat McGrath. You see that Pat McGrath's lip gloss has a little bit more of a prominent base, and the Suqqu gloss a little more translucent, but it has a similar feel with that heavy pink reflect in the formula. And 110, the turquoise, this is gorgeous. This is a little more like silvery bluish kind of, I would say more of like an actual gloss. You can see in 111 you have a browner base. 110 is a little more, what am I using this for? Let me use the other one. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, not goopy, smooth, and that high sparkle shine. Perfect. I have on Meet Me in Berlin, as I said before. That is my favorite shade out of the luxuriously lucent shades from the new release Lisa had this year. She also added new velvet shades with her eyeshadow palette release. Velvet Sorcery. Talk about the most perfect mauvey, rosy, brownish type of a lipstick. I couldn't even get that out. When I put this on for the first time, I wasn't ready. And I was going back and forth about Velvet Sorcery. Should I get it? Should I not? I'm so happy I got that shade. It sold out, and I understand why. This lipstick shade, again, I have to think about wearing reds and pinks and different colors except brown, beigey type of shades, and recently I got out of that. I wore Cinnabar to the gym the other day, loved it. But shades like Velvet Sorcery, so hard to come by because it's such a unique shade. The little bit of mauve, a little bit of rose, but it's not like a pinky red rose. It's more of like a neutral brownie rose. The shades that I love on my eyes, on my cheeks. Ooh, I should do like a whole look based on Velvet Sorcery. Back to why I love it so much, and one of my top picks, I guess top favorite. Well, there is one more velvet lipstick I have to share. I was going to present this as my favorite velvet lipstick for 2022, but there's also the Suqqu Sheer Matte Lipstick in 14. This is one of my most favorite beigey type of shades. It has a little yellow in there, which I know could be whatever, but ooh, what a gorgeous shade. This was fantastic when I had this on for the first time. And the sheer matte formula, not as pigmented as Lisa's, but still very smooth. And it's in the name, sheer matte, where it's sheer matte, but because of the matte formula, I think color shows beautifully still, and you can layer on as you like. It won't feel heavy on the lip. Same thing with Lisa's formula. They're both fantastic, but man, 14 from the Suqqu Sheer Matte, Velvet Sorcery from Lisa's Velvet lipstick line, the Suqqu Flawless lip glosses, the ESUM dual lip liners, which have just beautiful glide on the lip, great staying power as well. I don't wear liners often, but when I do, I grab those. As well as Pat McGrath's Structure and Supernatural. Those are fantastic as well, but those didn't come out in 2022, and I believe the newer lipstick shades from ESUM did. Mascara, I forgot to mention when I was talking about eyeshadows, my apologies. The ESUM Mascara, I think, released this year. What a great mascara. I do prefer it on top of my Clio Professional Kill Lash. That's the combination I have on today and what I have been doing all year. I like Clio Professional Kill Lash for lighter mascara days. Super proof. They ain't kidding. When you put that stuff on, you need an oil-based eye makeup remover to get that off without losing any lashes. And then I put ESUM's mascara on top. Because the Kill Lash gives me the hold and the curl, the ESUM mascara gives me more volume and black pigment on the lash, and it has like that thick voluminous look, and I adore it. That's been my go-to duo all throughout the year. I even tried Patrick Ta's mascara. It was okay, a little too wet for me. This combination I can't let go of. This is it, is how I feel about the Benefit brow products. They're just holy grail. Don't want to use anything else because it works so well. Why explore further? Why am I saying that? When it comes to foundation, blush, and bronzer, I can never stop exploring those possibilities. But certain things like brows and mascara that are just so, I'm so particular about, When I find something fantastic, I stick to it. So I bought like 3 ESUM mascaras and like 5 Clio Professional mascaras because you should be replacing your mascara every 3 months or so. I have to write the date down somewhere so I can remember when I started the tube. But that has been my go-to duo, never disappoints, and just looks fantastic with whatever eyeshadow look I have on the eyes. I think I'm gonna stop there, fam. I was gonna do nails, lifestyle, and I believe that will be for another video. So I'm gonna save that for another take. I wanted to complete my makeup faves today because, again, I think this was a great year for makeup. There were definitely more faves and fails, and I think that was due to the fact, again, that I focused on buying makeup that I knew would be fantastic. And sometimes you just never know, right? You might assume something's gonna work out, you get it, you try it, and it's a total disaster. But I gotta say, there haven't been many disasters from what I acquired over the year. And I just, every time I do my makeup, I noticed this year, I heavily look forward to it. I know I didn't include brushes, so I might have to include brushes in that second video as well because woo, were there a lot of favorites for brushes. All that to say, what a fantastic year for makeup. Lots of faves, lots of beautiful moments also. You know, getting Moonlit Seduction, meeting Pat McGrath at the Star Wars event, trying out Isamea's new makeup brand, all the freaking cheek products. My gosh, the highlighter, the blush, the bronzer, all so fantastic. Let me know what your best ofs were from 2022, fam. List it out if you want. Go crazy down in the comments. I might go back and forth about a lot of decisions while I'm probably editing this, but I think I could be at ease with what I chose and thoroughly happy with what I purchased in 2022 so that now going into next year, I can use what I acquired. I'll see you down there, fam. And until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, Best ofs Part 2. Take care, and I will see you again soon.